All right, and we're back with another episode of the Lakers Fast Break podcast. It's Gerald Glassford coming right back at you here from the Lakers Fast Break, Pop Culture Cosmos, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, and Game Source. We truly appreciate everyone out there listening to all of our great shows. And if you get a chance, please, we truly appreciate if you could go ahead and give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Also, as well, if you can like, subscribe, follow not only our shows around the Pop Culture Cosmos Network, the Lakers Fast Break, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, but also if you can go ahead and like, subscribe, follow everything that my guest does, because he's one of our best guests out there. In fact, you know what? It almost feels like I should go ahead and put his name in front of mine each and every week as the host, because I feel like he's here more than I am. You should go ahead and do so today, because he puts out a lot of tremendous stuff, just like we do here at the Lakers Fast Break. But I want to go ahead and tell you later on, there's going to be a commercial telling you just most, but not all of some of the great, most, but not all of the great guests that are going to coming on the way from the Lakers Fast Break, because it is a huge list of names I either have recorded or are going to record with coming up in the next couple of weeks as we get closer and closer to the regular season. So I'm hoping that you guys and gals out there will be able to go ahead and give it a listen right here at the Lakers Fast Break podcast. Well, last time I talked to him, he had said, let's wait a day and see what happens. And sure enough, a lot of stuff happened, and he came on the show, and he was right. So you know what? He said to me before we went on out, if anything happens again, real quick, real soon, I'll jump on and we'll do this again. And wouldn't you know, Rajon Rondo with the brittle hands broke his finger and is out 6 to 8 weeks. And wouldn't you know, Russell Westbrook came into, he actually didn't get it in the bubble, but I guess in transit, he found out that he has contracted the coronavirus, so he is currently out. His situation, he's under quarantine. So the situation for the Houston Rockets is actually not very good. And we'll also talk about, of course, Rajon Rondo and his injury. But here today with me is, just like I said, I should put his name in front of mine because he does such a great job on our show each and every time. You got to check out what he's doing today at the NBA Draft Junkies, the NBADraftJunkies.com. Great website there. The NBADraftJunkies.com YouTube page with over 11,000 subscribers. He does an awesome job there. He's actually got people working with him now, Joe Gomez, and the new guy from Turkey who did a tremendous job. He was the big hit at your mock draft there. I mean, it was just tremendous, the kind of reception that he got. Plus also his great podcast as well, NBA Draft Junkies. It is Raphael Barlowe. And Raphael, I'll tell you what, you guys had a great time in a mock draft, and before we end the show, we got to go ahead and talk about some of the things that your perceptions, your thoughts on that and how it went. But first off, my friend, just great to have you back on the program.
Glad to be back. Seems like I'm here often.
You are, and well, you know what? You keep telling me, anything comes up, we got to go ahead and talk about it, and you know what? We do, and I just appreciate you doing so. But I'll tell you what, my friend, it's just hearing Rajon Rondo being the first injury at the bubble, it just I don't know if that's a good omen or bad omen or what, however you're going to perceive it, because I know he is not the most popular Laker on the team because of the way he's played over the course of the past couple seasons with the team. I know he's not at the level that he once was. He does provide that veteran leadership voice. I know Frank Vogel and LeBron James, they have a tendency to rely on him and his skills on the court, even though when you look at it statistically, and I know you and I have looked at the numbers before and spoken about the numbers before, they have been not very impressive. And I've said in the past that I wanted his time, or at least I was hoping his time would be reduced. And that wasn't going to be the case with Alex Caruso or any other players that could come in and maybe interject themselves and mix a little bit better, because he was getting to be a little bit of a detriment on the defensive side. But people were saying, wait for playoff Rondo. Wait for playoff Rondo. Well, you know what? We're going to have to wait for playoff Rondo.
Yeah, I don't even know if he gets in the rotation once he does come back. If it's a 6 to 8 week injury, well, I guess he'd be in for the playoffs. But it depends on if JR or Dion play well in that spot, then it might be tough for him to get back in the rotation.
The only thing I see as an issue is after LeBron, because I know he liked playing with LeBron. I know Frank Vogel matched him up with LeBron a little bit, but also when LeBron went to the bench, he was the primary ball handler. And that's something you and I have spoken about before with Dion Waiters. That is his MO. That is something that I think he is very attuned to doing. So or at least the Dion Waiters that you and I once remembered. Okay, now we don't know because, like I said, he's only played 3 games this season. Mm-hmm. The Dion Waiters that we knew, do you think he could fill that slot?
I mean, I don't think he's a point guard. I wouldn't ask him to initiate the offense and get guys involved, but I do think that he is. If he's the Dion Waiters that you had in Miami, not last year but the year before, or the free agent year when he got I think he got like $52 million. Then, I mean, the Lakers got him for a steal. But even then, he wasn't like a point guard or distributor. But I like Caruso. I mean, I'm confident in Caruso as the backup point guard. And I've been saying since I've been on the show that somebody's going to be the odd man out. And we've talked about the bigs, but I know one of the guards is going to be the odd man out once the rotation starts to tighten up as you get in the playoffs. And I mean, I imagine Bron's going to play 38 minutes, 40 minutes. So I just think who's ever playing well around him is going to get the majority of the minutes. And I didn't see before the injury, and even now, I don't see Rondo as the guy that's going to complement Bron, especially in a playoff series. So I think that him being out, it's not a major loss for the Lakers.
Let me throw this name out at you because I saw him playing 2K with LeBron and AD last night, and it was so funny because they had an entire group of people hanging around them virtually, and everywhere they went on the pickup game courts, because they were playing together in 2K. It was so funny because everybody's doing like the Naruto run right after him. I don't know if you got a chance to see that on Quick Cook's Twitter last night because he was playing on Twitch, but Quinn Cook. And there's NBA final experience. Uh-huh. He's a good 3-point shooter. I know defensively he's a shorter individual, so he's as far as NBA wise. So he's not been the greatest individual defensively. Quick, can handle the ball. He
compliments LeBron.
Yeah, compliments LeBron. In the past, he's been a 38 to 40% 3-point shooter. We've not really seen that much of a sample size yet in Los Angeles to really gauge whether or not he can go ahead and produce now. I'd say give him the shot. Not saying Alex Caruso shouldn't play, but Alex Caruso, when he's the primary ball handler and distributor, has had issues. When he's off the ball and he's focusing on defense or he's giving you those hustle plays, he could work out well, I think, with Quinn Cook.
Yeah, I keep forgetting Quinn Cook is on the roster. I mean,
I think a lot of people forget.
Yeah, at this point, it seems like the Lakers have 21 guys on the roster right now. And I'd have to just take a look and see how many guys they have. It seems like there's a bunch of guards, maybe thin on the wings, and then we all know that they have 3, even 4 starting caliber centers. But yeah, I totally forgot about Quinn Cook. But I guess I forgot about him because I just imagine that JR or Dion are going to play big minutes for the Lakers. But I had Rondo out of their rotation anyway.
Oh, you did?
Mm-hmm.
Then I must, actually, if Laker Tom hears me from LakerHolics.net, he's probably, wincing when I say this, but you know what? I like that because I have not, I understand what Rajon Rondo brings as a voice, but numbers wise, outside of a very small stretch where about 10 games he was shooting above 50% from the 3-point area, it's been not a good season for him overall from both the offensive and defensive standpoint. And there are times in the offensive sets, you and I have both seen this, where they will just leave him alone. He will just have like a parking lot full of space where and they're just begging him to shoot on the other team.
I questioned the fit from the beginning. To me, it was just always a weird fit from, the time him and Lance signed. I just thought like those guys don't complement LeBron's game. Like, Rondo's a better player than Quinn Cook, but in a playoff situation when you have to build around Bron and Bron's going to play a lot of minutes, I think Cook is a better fit because he spaces the floor and just the gravity that he provides. And plus, Bron is best with the ball in his hands. And Rondo's best with the ball in his hands. But Rondo is not good at all when he doesn't have the ball in his hands. And so, I could see in the playoffs that coming back to haunt them because when they try to run the pick and roll, who's ever guarding Rondo is just going to be sitting there waiting for it. So that's why I didn't think that Rondo would have made an impact in the playoffs this year. But then again, he would have had like 1 or 2 games where he's just flying all over the place defensively, coming up with the hustle points. And, even like in Boston when they used to, you remember him in the playoffs where you didn't guard him, but he would sneak in and get these timely offensive rebounds and just those hustle plays. But if he's not providing that, then I don't think that he would have provided much of an impact.
Because that's something that even though he was very good off the ball, like you said, steals off the off man, not his own man, but the off man, rebounder, like he was one of the best rebounding guards. I get that. I understand that. And but his ability to go ahead and do a lot of those things diminishes because he's not the youngest guard in the world. And that's the same thing when we talked about J.R. Smith. I'm worried about what he can contribute being out of the league 2 years and being 34. Yet Dion Waiters is 28, still in the prime, you would think, in the prime of his career. He, I think, has a better chance to distribute in many ways, but he might not get the opportunity simply because of the fact that J.R. Smith is a better fit stylistically with LeBron.
And I think Dion is playing for his NBA career. I think that if he doesn't take advantage of this situation, and you can say the same for JR, any type of, not positive news about them comes out, I think that it could signal the end or very close to the end for both of those guys. Because even if you're Waiters, he's still under contract, but this year was not a good year for him.
Yep.
Just the whole situation with the gummies.
Yeah.
And then a team just getting rid of you with what he got traded to Memphis, right? And then they were like, don't even come. I
believe so.
We'll pay you to get away, or they bought him out. And I know he had a lot of money left on his deal. So anytime that situation happens, I think you're on your last leg in the league. And then it's Miami, like Pat Riley's one of those guys. If he's done with you, then it kind of, I think the league follows. Luckily for Dion, he's a clutch guy. And, it's the Lakers are kind of desperate and they have the options to be willing to take that risk to see that, if he comes in and he provides a spark, great. If he doesn't, then they didn't give up much for him.
Similar
kind of reminds me of J.R. Ryder that year with the Lakers. Was it 2001?
Yes.
Well, he could play. He could contribute. He was hanging on by a thread for his NBA career, not because of talent, just because of character issues. And I don't know if he played again after that.
Not in the States, I don't think. Not in the NBA, from if memory serves. But then this also reminds me of what we saw earlier last year with Dwight Howard, where this could have been very well his last chance. And now he's taken full advantage of it to the point where once he goes back out into free agency after the season's over, he's going to be wanted by a great many teams.
Yep. But he still won't get paid his value. He's still going to, especially with the cap going down.
Yeah.
Some team may get Dwight for like the mid-level exception.
But it's still substantially better than what the alternative was, because he was playing himself or acting himself out of the league, similar to what we saw, like you said, with Isaiah Ryder. And quite possibly J.R. Smith and Dion Waiters if they don't go ahead and perform, or when called upon, not just that, but even if they're not given the opportunity, just go ahead and be those kind of teammates and not just your first weekend go ahead and complain about the hotel room nonstop.
Right. I mean, JR has to be really thankful and grateful for his friendship with LeBron. I think that was what saved him, and it's going to at least extend his career for this playoff run.
That'll teach you. That'll teach us both a lesson. Always try to find LeBron on the bike path, because when they ride bikes together, you get that job. But I tell you what, there's a lot more to talk about here. I'm still thinking overall that the injury is going to be something that I think is going to be a benefit to the Lakers in a weird way, because it will give Quinn Cook, who I've been asking to have a better opportunity to go ahead and have a chance to play, but also Alex Caruso. I just think he's still better off the ball than being your primary ball handler. I know that was something that they were trying to do when they first got him, and he was first a two-way player in the league. He was going to be what they were perceiving as a backup point guard. But I've seen his passing. He still has a lot of areas to improve on his passing skills. But if he can go ahead and provide any type of relief, that's greatly appreciated. But I think they should give, of the players that are still left, I think they should give Quinn Cook that chance.
I agree. But I don't know if he's represented by Clutch. So
it's all about Clutch.
You're not represented by Clutch, and player A and player B are the exact same, and they're clones, and they do everything the exact same. And the guy that's with Clutch is going to get the upper hand. It's the way the cookie crumbles.
Not going to say you're wrong, because I know you're not wrong. You're very much right on that. Once again, I'm talking to Raphael Barlowe from NBA Draft Junkies. You got to check out his great shows on YouTube, his great podcast, and also his awesome site, NBADraftJunkies.com. There's also other major news in the NBA. I think 2 players recently have tested positive out of the over 300, which is a good sign.
Yeah.
But one of those players is Russell Westbrook, who recently announced he tested positive. I don't think he was in the bubble yet when this happened. So no. I think he's still quarantining at this point in time. So I don't think he could go ahead because I know he and James Harden were going by private plane and were coming at a different point in time than the rest of the Houston Rockets team. So I think you cannot consider this a coronavirus positive case that happened within the confines of the bubble.
I think Bam Adebayo hasn't reported either.
Okay.
So I think Kawhi just got there today, if I'm not mistaken. So I wonder if Harden is the second. Then I think they're not sure if Gary Harris or Michael Porter Jr. are with the Nuggets either. So I read a tweet saying that they're so tight-lipped about which Nuggets players are there and who's not there. And Jokic isn't there yet either. So I wonder who the second player is.
That's weird. That's something that hopefully they'll get uncovered. Of course, we don't have Adrian Wojnarowski, free Woj, right now to go ahead and report that. So it's going to be everybody's going to be leaning towards Shams for the next couple of weeks or so. But it's just something that we're going to be seeing play out over the course of the next couple of weeks as the bubble. I mean, if they're able to go ahead and get over these little speed bumps with the people just coming in and also the people breaking quarantine, Richaun Holmes crossed over the Disney line and got himself 8 days of quarantine because he broke the quarantine line picking up some delivery food.
Did you see his mom's tweet?
What was that? No, I didn't.
His mom says, "You only crossed the line for your mama's cooking, and I'm not in Florida."
Nice.
And then I saw Kelly Oubre. He sent out, a memo tweet like, "Hey, Postmates delivers. They'll deliver to the front desk, but you got to actually come out and get it. They're not gonna hold your food." And then for him, of all players, I mean, based off the situation that the Suns are in, he's like, we have, I can't remember exactly what he said, but I'm probably getting the quote wrong, but his point was we have bigger things. We have bigger fish to fry. We have bigger obligations here. Like, don't be getting yourself suspended, crossing the line when they'll bring the food to you. And so he's saying that as if his team is going to be competing for one of these spots. So
I thought he was on the Kings.
Oubre?
Oh, I thought you meant Rajon Holmes. Sorry.
No, yeah, Kelly Oubre. He tweeted basically saying like they'll bring the food. Don't get yourself suspended because we have important things to accomplish here. And
okay,
and so
those are the right words coming from the team that's like way out of the picture in the playoffs.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I would be expecting that from somebody that was on a team that's expected to compete for a championship.
Ouch.
So I guess the Suns are planning on trying to make a run. I mean, they should have their whole team there. So
there you go. You got to make Devin Booker happy. So there you go. And then also Bruno Caboclo, the 2 years away from 2 years away, might be 10 days away from getting back on the court for Houston because he also broke quarantine.
Yeah, I haven't heard the details about, like it's not as detailed like with Rajon Holmes. I wonder what was he doing. And but I think the message should be loud and clear. That quarantine, just hearing like Malika Andrews talk about it, and then just, a friend of mine that's playing in China, he talked about how it was torture being in the room. If anyone else like breaks the quarantine and gets suspended for 10 days, I mean, I guess I don't get it. I mean, I just think like the example that was set between these two guys, 10 days in your room is torture. I mean, it's almost like a jail sentence for breaking the quarantine.
Yeah. And we wish all the best to everyone that is in quarantine now, especially Russell Westbrook, because that's very terrible to hear that he has contracted the coronavirus. And obviously it's going to put a little damper on the start of the Houston Rockets for their season until he can get back into the lineup. And I'm hoping he will be able to get back to the lineup because you want to see these teams as close to full health as possible. What do you think that's going to do as far as the outcome early on for the Houston Rockets?
Well, I guess for me, like first and foremost, the concern is Russ has like 3 young kids. I know his wife just had twins and he has a son that can't be no more than 2. So I guess that's the main worry is like, him having COVID-19 with 3 young kids at home. That's kind of scary.
Yeah.
As far as like the Rockets, I don't know because their two top dogs aren't there. So how can you practice your offense when your offense is literally based around Harden and Westbrook? So I mean, are they running ISOs for Austin Rivers in practice right now?
Oh, he's got to like that.
He's got to like that. So yeah, I mean, it's got to be tough for them. But I mean, I guess their system isn't too complicated. Anyway, everybody kind of knows their role. Stand in the corner, space the floor, knock down open shots. And then the thing about Harden and Westbrook, just from their past, they're coming in shape. Those aren't 2 guys that you have to worry about.
James Harden
out of shape.
He looks like he lost a lot of weight during the this off.
Yeah, and that's the thing that a lot of people thought guys would come in out of shape. Or I mean, I guess we can't know at this point who's like out of shape, but I mean, I've seen pictures where guys have transformed their bodies. Like Gasol lost a lot of weight. Jokic looks like Porzingis. Harden lost some weight. I even saw like Grant Williams from the Celtics looks a little slimmer. Zion looks like he's got some cuts in his arm. Like he looks even more. I mean, he's a monster as is. But
he looks like he's going to go for Mr. America there.
Yeah, he looks in good shape. I heard like Bagley's put on like maybe 10 to 15 pounds of muscle. So it's I mean, I guess it's kind of like an off season because I think if you take the days from when the season ended, like March 11th or 12th or something like that, into the time where the season starts, July 31st, it's almost like the identical dates and time frame of a normal NBA offseason.
Yeah. And then there's so much to think about right now, like you said, with 3 to 4 months and how many people have taken advantage of that time. Although if something, I will say, take solace, Houston Rockets fans. If something happens to where Russell Westbrook and James Harden cannot play for any extended period of time, Austin Rivers, I got this, coach. I got it. Feel confident in that.
He's been waiting for this moment, and especially it's kind of in his hometown. He grew up in Orlando, so even that'll probably mean a lot to him. I know he's not hoping that happens, but everyone is looking for the opportunity to really, as they say, get off in your bag and show what you're capable of, as opposed to like being put into this situation where you're a role player. So Austin Rivers as the feature player in a D'Antoni offense might get him a bigger contract.
It'll get him something, that's for sure. It'll get him a lot of shots, but it's going to be interesting to see if that's going to happen as we get closer to the season. There's still plenty of time for Russell Westbrook, and we don't know the status of James Harden, if either two are going to be able to play to start the season, but I'm hoping that will be the case. And I don't know if Austin Rivers would like me saying that, but Austin Rivers, he's going to go ahead and get his buckets regardless. It's just depending on how many buckets he's going to get with James Harden and or Russell Westbrook out of the lineup. And that's hopefully not going to be the case for too long, because realistically, Houston is not going to advance far on just Austin Rivers.
That's a safe bet right there.
That's a safe bet indeed. My friend, before we go ahead and talk about your perceptions and everything as far as what we did this past weekend with your mock draft that's now available on NBA Draft Junkies, I want to go ahead and talk about two more things. One thing was about Rajon Rondo, and when you have a player that is often injured in the same area as Rajon Rondo was, and this is the latest injury to his finger/hand, Bobby Marks brought it up earlier this morning on Twitter that since the 2010-2011 season, Rajon Rondo has injured his hand and wrist 13 different times, 11 on the right, 2 on the left. He's missed about 55 games, not including, according to what we're going to see, obviously, what he's going to miss in Orlando. So when you have a player, and I know you train players, and you've trained players in the past as well that have had injuries, I don't know to the extent at the same areas as this. How do you approach that differently going forward? Because if you realize that your hands are going to constantly get injured if you keep on doing things the wrong way, or maybe the right way, or maybe the way you're supposed to be doing, should you take some type of precautions, or how do you approach that?
I don't know, because you don't usually see hand injuries. It's usually knees or ankles or, one of those areas where you guys have reoccurring injuries. But I have never seen anyone have as many hand injuries as he's had, especially as a basketball player, maybe as a boxer. And for him, his hands are, your hands are always going to be important because, you need them in basketball. But as far as just like, handling the ball, because I think like in a playoff situation, guys are competitive. They want to win. And if they know that you have weak hands, they're going to tap your hand as often as possible. I think I read, was it Harden who had like a messed up thumb a couple of years ago in the playoffs? And he was saying that whoever was defending him, they make sure, just kind of bump the hand, just kind of make sure that you don't want to hurt him, but you want him to feel it. You want him to be aware that, that he has an injured hand. And so,
or, he also gets a lot of fouls. So
right.
When you're reaching for that foul, you might as well go ahead. Okay, if I'm going to get called for a foul, I'm going to get that part of the hand.
Yep. And so, Rondo's not going to be attacking the paint like that. But yeah, I wonder what the issue is. I'm sure he's going to see a hand specialist. I'm sure that he probably has already seen one, but he just may have hands that are failing him at the tail end of his career.
And that's a shame. Although I can somewhat relate, because back when I was a kid playing Little League baseball at first base, I was actually leading the league in hitting, and I was doing really well. But my second baseman, who, in those Little League fields are like, just a few feet away from each other, he would throw heaters at me all the time on grounders, and it got to the point where my fingers all had to be taped up because they were in such disarray. And I lost enough time to where I almost didn't qualify for the batting title, even though I was leading the league. And it got to the point where they had to make a switch. I moved out to the outfield. My fingers are all better. What do you know? But going back into what we're talking about, like you said, he must have a hand specialist, but something is definitely wrong there.
And it makes sense because, I mean, Rondo's never been known as an outside shooter, but there was a point in time towards maybe 2011 through 13, where he was actually one of the best mid-range shooters in the NBA, especially from the elbows. He was shooting off the top of my head, I want to say he was shooting like over 50% from that spot on the floor. And since then, I want to say since maybe like his first or second hand injury, he's been more reluctant to shoot, and then he'll pass up open shots to get assists. And so he's always kind of known as an assist hunter, but it seems like he started doing it a lot more once he had those issues with his hands. Like right now, he won't shoot unless he's wide open. And even then, even there's games if he makes a couple threes, there's times where the defense doesn't rotate out to him, like you said, and he'll still swing the ball back to someone to take a contested shot. And so I wonder, does that have something to do with his hands?
Well, that's something that, because he had the injury earlier this year, and he came back. And like I said, for the first 10 games-ish, he was shooting at above 50% and leading the league in three-point percentage. And he was confident. He was taking the ball. He was shooting the ball. He was taking a lot of shots. But then you started to see, once his shots started to fail, you're right, exactly right. The teams left him wide open. He would pass up open shots. You saw that lack of confidence. I don't know if it's hand-related or what, but you saw the lack of confidence in him personally to go ahead and say, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and get everybody else the ball because I'm not able to go ahead and shoot it. He did obviously have to take some times where he had to shoot because they left him so wide open, but you would definitely see him pass up open shots, even if they gave it to him.
Yeah, I mean, it could be related. I mean, think about it. If a guy had 12 or 13 knee injuries or 12 or 13 ankle injuries, it's going to impact how he plays the game. He may not be as aggressive as attacking the rim, so he may settle for a lot of jump shots. He may, not go for rebounds if it's his ankles because he's worried about landing on somebody's foot. He'll play a little bit more cautious. So maybe Rondo is passing up a lot more shots because he's just not confident in his hands, or maybe even catching the ball is an issue. And, like the NBA, I mean, those guys, their arms are so long. The spacing it's better now than it was before, but those passes are like bullets being fired at you. And so you have to catch first. And if you don't want to catch the ball, or you're not catching the ball correctly, that little bit of timing can throw you off from a open shot to a contested shot.
Yeah.
So, there could be a bunch of reasons. Well, I just say that it makes sense that with all his hand issues that it could affect his confidence from catching to even passing the ball. But luckily he has big hands, and he has the hands where he can, off the dribble and fire the ball across the court. But if his hands are bothering him, then maybe some of the high-risk passes that he normally throws, he'll be a little bit more conservative.
Maybe that's part of the reason why he's had so many injuries, because as you and I both have heard, even back when he was going for the draft and whatnot, that he has such tremendously large hands.
Mm-hmm. That could be it.
That could be it. And like you said, he's going to be, when he comes back in 6 to 8 weeks, whether or not he gets back into the rotation. I have a feeling he'll be thrust back into the rotation, just regardless of how well the guards are playing or not so well, just because he is Rajon Rondo, and because, as you and I have talked before, about how much confidence Frank Vogel and also LeBron have in him, I see him still being given minutes, whether or not, how many of the guards are playing well or not. I still think he will get somewhat of a spot back when he gets back.
I say I think it's even riskier because let's say if it was an ankle injury, if he had an ankle injury, and which hand is it? Is it his left or is it right?
I'm not quite sure. I'm looking. I have not seen. I'm according to body marks. Have not seen which hand it is. I keep hearing hand injury, so I'm looking up on Twitter right now. Right now, if you got a chance. Speaking of which, if you got a chance to go ahead and follow us at Lakers Fast Break on Twitter. Yeah, it's just significant injury to his hand. I'm sure it's out there which hand it is, but I'm not quite sure at this point in time.
So, for example, let's say it was his ankle. If it's his ankle that's hurt, he could still get up 400 or 500 shots a day to keep his rhythm. But if it's your hand, then you're already a reluctant shooter. You already are the weak link, and you're the one that defenses aren't rotating out to. Having a hand injury is something that's going to be hard for him to like work on that while he's out, and then just the mental aspect of it.
Yeah.
So with saying all that, I wouldn't be shocked if he's out the rotation when he gets back. And if he does get back in the rotation, it's like you said, it's based off of Rondo, his name, as opposed to his game.
There you go. Was that intentional or unintentional on the rhyme?
It was intentional.
Okay, fair enough. My friend, again, I'm with Raphael Barlowe from NBA Draft Junkies. He recently did a mock draft with the Weisenbergs, Jason and Michael from Perspective Insight, and also their great Viceland podcast. You had Stone Hansen from DraftSite.com. Who else did you have on board? I think
my brother James
Barlowe.
Yep, and then Kuzey Kilich. Yeah, he's man. That kid is a worker.
Absolutely, he was doing it all the way late night from Turkey, as far as when he was going ahead and making those picks. And you guys had a great roundtable discussion, and you went down pick by pick. I want to tell you the presentation, the way you laid it out, was truly a lot of fun. It was a great job by you and everybody else that was involved with picking it. I truly enjoyed it. I'm glad that maybe in some ways that maybe I wasn't a part of it because I would have messed it up. I also, the feedback that you were getting, I don't know, some of these individuals that were on there, the commenters and whatnot, I don't think was truly the best intentions in mind as far as what they were commenting. As you know, when you do your shows, some people like your picks, some people don't like your picks when you're doing your mock drafts and whatnot. But when you guys got together, I noticed there was quite a variance from when you and I and James and Michael Weisenberg and Stone Hansen got on previously, and we picked our picks. Tell me some of the things that you were seeing differently, because I saw after that CBS Sports HQ, they were doing their draft, and their draft was significantly different than the one you just had with all the guys.
Yeah, it's just a matter of opinions. I mean, we've talked about it before that with this draft, I mean, there's no surefire number one, and a guy could be high on my list and, be projected to go in the 20s on somebody else's. I mean, even with the list I did earlier, I had Jaden McDaniels as a lottery pick, and then now I'm just kind of his stock is falling in my eyes, and it's not even based off of his last game because he hasn't played since like March. It's just watching other guys, and then I think RJ Hampton was the biggest fall in our mock draft. Nico Mannion he's been consistent as far as where he's been, and so even like my personal mock draft, the one we did on the Lakers Fast Break, and then this past weekend, Teo Maledon, I think he wasn't even selected in the first round.
That's correct.
If I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Jamias Ramsey was the last pick. And I think even if we did another one tomorrow and we used a Tankathon simulator where we didn't know who was picking, I think there would be a big difference in contrast of where players are going in that one too. Because I think
surprise you?
Yeah, like I was shocked. I think Xavier Tillman in the first round. I wasn't expecting that. I mean, he hasn't been in first round, and like my personal one, the one we did on your site. So he was new. I think Grant Riller in the first round was new. Kuze selected Malachi Flynn. He put him in the first round. So that's three guys that were new to the first round. So that means there's three guys that got bumped out. Just off the top of my head, I know Meladon was one. I'm thinking maybe Vernon Carey was the other. And was it Zeke Nnaji? I think it was a big that was
It wasn't
bumped out.
Yeah, Zeke Nnaji was bumped out. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, like I said, RJ was the biggest fall. I forgot where he went off the top of my head.
He went to the mid-20s, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, he went to Miami at what is Miami, 23, 24, something like that?
Yeah.
And he's been a lottery on a lot of different boards. So.
And this is someone that you have seen more closely. Yeah. So you've been able to gauge his progress even during the course of the past few months where they haven't been playing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I mean, I saw him. I've seen him at the gym, doing strength and conditioning workouts. I've seen him there a couple of times, but I've only actually seen him on the court once, and that was when I filmed, and that footage is on my website. I may try to go this week and see if I can catch up with him. But he's been working out with Mike Miller lately, so I don't know if he's actually in Dallas or not. I follow him on Instagram. Sometimes he's in Memphis, sometimes he's in Dallas. So I don't know where he's at, but I can make a phone call and see if I can catch up with him.
There you go. I mean, because like you said, he can't let him drop down too far, because I think the kid's got some skills, and I think that he can go ahead and be an impactful player in the NBA. Just where he fits, where his ultimate position lies, that's still up for debate. I know you and I talked about him being that kind of hybrid point guard, shooting guard. I think that's a positional type need. That probably would be best thing for me. Whether or not you want to see him as a starter or as someone that's going to be a major contributor off the bench, I think that's also probably for me one of the things that I would consider. It's where you perceive him to be, and I think that's what this draft is all about. Is there's a lot of contributors. I think a lot of people are trying to reach for the stars, and therein lies the problem, because I think a lot of these teams, a lot of these players in this draft, which is not as valued as other drafts, I think you can get a lot of contributors on this team. I just don't think you're going to be able to get a lot of stars.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a weak draft. It's overall, as far as talent, it just doesn't have that star power. At least as of now, it doesn't look like it has the star power. Like everybody that, from LaMelo to Anthony Edwards to Wiseman, there are some concerns or question marks. But then again, every year there's a guy that ends up being like a late lottery pick or mid first round pick that ends up turning into like a high quality like all-star, like Donovan Mitchell was one. I think Bam Adebayo, it's always situations like that. So I think that by this draft being so difficult to gauge, I wouldn't be shocked if there's a couple guys that are selected late lottery, mid first round that end up being really high level starters for winning NBA teams. But intel is going to be important this year, really important. But it's going to be hard to get because you can't really meet with guys face to face. A lot of Zoom interviews, so it's going to be tough. I mean, I would love to be NBA GM, but this is the year that you got your work cut out for you.
Well, unfortunately, that's not going to happen for you, because one of your proteges, Kuze Killick, is going to be at this rate. If based on the fan response, my gosh, he might get the job before you, because that kid, everybody loved his picks on the draft.
Yeah, I mean, he had the Warriors pick, and he took Okongwu. He had the second Knicks pick, and they liked that one. And I'm just happy to see that the response from the people watching. I did see one where they say he's the best GM of the group. So it was good to see, because he's the youngest out of everybody, probably by a long shot. He's Turkish, and he's confident in his work. But one of the things that he was concerned about is he was saying he didn't think his English was good enough. So I told him, no, your English is fine. Your English is fine. You'll do just fine. So he was excited to see that, the positive feedback And then I guess it had positive feedback to his friends in Turkey also. So he's looking forward to the next one.
Well, I thought you were an awesome GM on your GM spotlights for the New York Knicks and Cleveland Cavaliers. So if you do get that job as a GM, you might actually have to call him on the phone and ask for some trade options. So, because he might be working in an office somewhere else in the NBA.
Trade options, and he knows, he has a scouting report out where he's broke down film on like the top 15-year-olds in Africa. So he works. He really works. And then even as far as like getting interviews, like he doesn't fear rejection. Like he'll reach out to foreign players in their DMs and ask for an interview. So I have a couple lined up this week with a couple guys that I've seen live and that I have projected to be like late second round picks. And so I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, he's been a good addition to my website.
And Joe Gomez as well. He's done some great work with you already.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys got to catch out there if you can. NBA Draft Junkies. You're doing a lot of great stuff there. But before we head on out, my friend, I want you to go ahead and you mentioned some of the things that you're doing. Is there anything else you got cooking up right now in NBA Draft Junkies?
Right now, the next thing is I have a Sadiq Bey video breakdown. I haven't done one in like a month. I've been doing more so like the podcast stuff and breaking down the positions, but I need to get back into doing the individual scouting report. So Sadiq Bey is next. And I've had the video 80% done for like 4 or 5 weeks now. It's just adding the finishing touches to it and then adding the voiceovers. So my goal is to get that done sometime this week. And then after that, I know I plan on doing another My GM this week. I just need to figure out which team I am going to be responsible for fixing through the draft. I'm thinking maybe Detroit or Chicago. The Cleveland one, I thought that was my best work by far. Well, I've only done 2. I thought the Cleveland one was better than New York, but the Cavs don't have a fan base like New York, so it didn't get the same amount of views and attention. So I think I'll go with Chicago, and then hopefully I can do all 30 teams. I'm kind of pushing myself now because I think we're like 95 days away from the draft, so I'd have to do like 28 teams within the next 95 days. And but I think once I get more under my belt, they'll be easier to do. It's just kind of tough because I got to remember, the cap and look at the roster and then come up with a script. But I enjoy it. I really enjoy it, and it's practice for maybe something I'll be doing in the future as far as just whether it's talking or being a GM of a team or being on my podcast. So I enjoy it a lot.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you get a chance, check out his work today. I'm hopeful that it will lead to something very prosperous for you, my friend, because you do put a lot of work in. You do work very hard at it, and I truly appreciate everything you do. And I know all the 11,000 subscribers on YouTube, the many people that read your work at NBADraftJunkies.com, and also check out your podcast, NBA Draft Junkies. Go ahead and appreciate that as well. And I wish you continued success with that. But before we head on out, my friend, we were hoping for more hotel horror stories, and the horror stories for that have taken place as far as people breaking the Disney line, like we talked about with Rashawn Holmes. Mm-hmm. But there was one blog or one vlog on Twitter that you said I should follow, and I think I'm going to go ahead and suggest that out there, and that's Matisse Thybulle. Tell us why people should be watching Matisse Thybulle and his continuous vlogs on the bubble.
Well, for me, he's a creative. I'm a creative. I do video stuff. And so I understand like the creativity that's behind it. And so what he's done is he's vlogged and I guess I relate to it simply because there's been times where I've been traveling and I'm trying to like travel and hold the camera. I'm trying to hold my luggage. And so I understand how difficult it is to do that because like I said, it's tough because you're trying to hold your luggage, you're trying to check into the hotel, you're trying to do everything that everybody else has to do, but at the same time, you want to capture the moment. So he's done a good job of that. And then just the fact that, I mean, they've only been there like a week and he's already put 2 out. So it shows the free time that they have. And then it shows that, he's been putting in time and editing each video. I think the first one was like 10 minutes or so. And then he showed like all the snacks. He showed, the little things like they gave each player like a personalized pillow with their name and their number on it. And then I think it was the owner of the team, and he was with Embiid, and he went to shake hands, and the owner's like, I can't shake hands. And I mean, just like the little stuff that's going on behind the scenes. Hopefully more players, do the same thing. I think I saw JaVale had a camera when the Lakers were getting off the bus. I would love to see like the fishing, like the fishing vlog. I don't know if you had a chance to see some of those videos where the guys went fishing.
Not yet.
Yeah, it was the Thunder. And it's funny because I listened to like the Hoop Collective, and they're saying like, when the guys are on the court, they can defend each other, they can guard each other. Once basketball is over, they have to be 6 feet away from each other. They have to get ice and their chairs are 6 feet apart. And then they have the little buzzer or whatever that, it goes off if they're, I guess I've heard anywhere between 6 to 10 feet. But yeah, you had these guys on a boat and they're fishing. And I mean, it's pretty cool to see. I think, I forgot, I think it was Darius Baisley caught a fish. And he was so excited. It was his first time catching a fish. But he's kind of like me. Like I've been fishing before, but something about the grabbing of the live fish off the hook, it doesn't sit well with me. And he had the same issue. So I thought that was pretty cool. And hopefully we can get like some, I don't know, whatever games they're playing. I'm sure that they'll find some ways to be competitive. And so, but yeah, like his behind the scenes from a player's perspective, it's like professionally done, but it's not professionally done. I think that's what makes it cool, is that it's not really like scripted. It's just from his point of view, it's what he sees. So I think that's pretty cool.
And that's awesome. That's once again Matisse Thybulle. You got to check it out. You start off with his Twitter. Just go to his Twitter. I'm going to give him some props on that. And he is at Matisse Thybulle. Or you can just go ahead and just Google it, Matisse Thybulle, and his videos come right up. But before you know, my friend, I just wanted to go ahead and thank you again for being on the show. Any last thoughts on what you're looking forward to this week, or more info outside of what you're talking about behind the scenes, but anything coming up on the, because you've been such an insightful person and almost like a savant, as I called you on the previous show. What are you thinking that might happen over the course of the next few days?
Well, I don't think there'll be any more guys raking the quarantine. That 8 to 10 day jail sentence in your room. That's probably not the best term to use, but that 8 to 10 day sentence to your room, that's a major punishment. So I think the NBA got their 2 guys that they're going to use as examples. So hopefully there's not any more. I think the main thing is we'll see like when Westbrook comes, Harden, Adebayo, and then even with like these practices that have been canceled. Like I've seen the tweets and they've named like 4 teams that cancel practice. Hopefully we'll find out, is there more to it, or is it just that they decided to cancel practice? So I guess we'll find out more in the next few days, because it seems like they're about 3 days behind.
Yeah.
With the news. So, but I'm sure we're kind of starved for sports at this point. So I think anything that happens is going to end up being like major news for ESPN, Twitter, or whoever, just because everybody wants to find out what's going on.
It's going to be a little bit harder for ESPN until they free Woj. But,
did they say how long he's suspended for?
No.
It doesn't seem like I haven't even seen it on anything on their end.
Of course,
their shows.
No, not other. I listen to Hoop podcast level. The Hoop Collective. Didn't hear that. Never heard on the ESPN daily shows. Never saw it on their site. You have to go everywhere else, and they never specified how long the term is going to be.
Very interesting.
Free Woj.
It's weird because they report everybody else's news, but like you said, when it comes to their own, it's like it didn't happen. So
Exactly. But LeBron says free Woj. I know a lot of the players are saying free Woj, so they're trying to get behind that movement for freeing Woj. I like I said, I think he's back before the beginning of the season, which again would probably coalesce with a 2-week type of window. So I don't see that as too big of an issue there if that's the case. But we've already talked about that. And if you want to hear more about our thoughts on the Adrian Wojnarowski controversy, go ahead and check out our previous episodes on the Lakers Fast Break. But for now, my friend, I just truly appreciate the time you're taking. I want to hear all about, like you said, over the course of the week until next time we talk, about some of the things that's going on behind the scenes. I mean, what is going on with, like you said, about some of the players not, showing up for the team practices? What's going on with Kemba Walker? Is he hurt? Is he not hurt? There's some other mysterious things that are going on in the NBA. Hopefully we will get more, lead time. Hopefully we'll get more information. Hopefully we'll get more clarification on some of these things as we go forward, because it's 9 days away when they start the scrimmages, and I want to make sure at least that they are somewhat ready and somewhat up to speed, and hopefully we won't have 2 more incidents going forward.
Yeah, even like Victor Oladipo, unless they changed it and I missed it, but I thought if you weren't playing, you couldn't come. And now it's like supposedly Kyrie's whole thing, but I hear Oladipo is with the team.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
Very confusing line sent out as far as that's concerned, from a league that has made so many distinct points of interest and clarifications in other aspects. So it's clear and it's unclear when it concerns the NBA bubble at this point. But hopefully you and I, my friend, will be able to break it on down for our listeners on your shows and mine coming up very soon in the near future. I look forward to our future conversations. Cannot thank you enough for always stopping by. And any last thoughts on the way out?
Nope. Just, you covered it all. Just want to know like a little bit more what's going on, like with the Nuggets. And so we don't know who's been at their practices, if they have their whole team. When Jokic is coming into the bubble, a lot of questions need to be answered.
A lot of questions indeed. Once again, it's Rafael Barlowe from the NBA Draft Junkies. You got to be part of his experience that he has out there today. Just type in NBA Draft Junkies. My friend, it's been great talking to you as always. I look forward to talking to you very soon. Although if we get more hotel horror stories, that might have to be sooner rather than later. But definitely want to go ahead and keep you up to date with everything that's going on right here at the Lakers Fast Break Podcast.